How much time do we have? Does she have 2 minutes?
I'm just gonna go.
Oh my God, you were killing me.
Go. 2 seconds.
Go.
2 seconds.
That's how we're starting the show because it's live right now. You're gonna start the show.
All right, this is perfect. This is exactly how I wanted to start the show.
Exactly how this should start right now.
No, for sure.
Because when you
Chaos.
when you involve your wife
Chaos.
or your girlfriend on the show,
Chaos.
this is what happens.
No, they don't get the proper introduction.
this is the
Let
proper
me make
introduction.
no. Let me start off the show where it should be. It's the Gamble and Ginter podcast. How you doing? Okay.
This is the one time we're in the right to slander our significant others.
Okay, so to give you guys some perspective, we had this show beginning at 7 o'clock. And we try to be on time, and most of the time, I would say me and Amano, when we're hosting the show, are pretty much on time. Right before we were about to go live at 7:05, 5 minutes late with the testing, my beautiful wife hears a beep from the chicken going outside. And as the play button's being pressed, she leaves to go get the chicken. Yeah. So, I mean, they may be nervous being on camera for the first time, but what a first impression. My wife, Jessica, how are you doing?
Great.
You got to talk into the microphone, sweetheart.
I'm great. And listen, do you want dinner 35 minutes from now?
That's a
or
good
an
point.
hour from now?
It's a fairly good point, but once again, a wonderful start to this show. We're going to be talking serious sports very much later in the show, but we wanted to do something a little bit more fun today. It's the reason why we have my beautiful wife, Jessica, and also who stayed in the room and should have been introduced, Amano's girlfriend,
Beautiful
Ashley.
girlfriend.
Ashley. How you doing?
Doing good.
Fantastic. So
She can't wait to use this mic. She's ready.
during the weird part about me and Jessica's dynamic is we were very recently married, as I've talked about on the show a couple of times, and basically we're new in the sense that our time together has only been through the eyes of quarantine. So this has been normal throughout the entirety of our marriage. And the dynamic has been pretty interesting, to say the least, because we never lived together before till literally the day we got married was the first day we moved in here. And so we've kind of just had to learn about each other during quarantine statuses. So she's at the point where you're just reading at this point, correct? Like you're over TV shows, but we are just reading at this point. So what I proposed is I want to see, what are people watching during this quarantine time? Because Ashley, you're watching a lot of shows during this time, correct?
Yes.
More than you've ever had in your life.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. One word answers are fantastic on a show where we got to keep talking throughout. But you guys are new, I know it.
Ryan Gabriel's only here because Jess is on the show.
I would agree with that because, again, Jess is like the
fans.
better part of me. I am the mean one. It's not even close. She is a saint. But I had to get the woman's perspective onto the binging because I don't know, for men, it's really easy. We just play Warzone when we're not watching TV, and that gets us through until the next time we watch TV. We are lucky enough to still be able to work, but if all you're doing is watching TV, So for you guys, how has this quarantine process been?
Well, I finally learned what the goulash is.
You finally the goulash.
Gulag. Sorry.
The gulag. So again,
Saw so many memes for it,
Yeah.
but because of you, I understand what it is.
In the chat right now.
No, of course.
Specs Pearlington, Jess is a fucking saint insider.
That is what. That is true.
My adoring fan.
So, as we're setting up, I thought, you know what? I was watching as well our good friends over at the Nothing But Facts who did a top 5 with video games, and to not totally steal their idea, I decided to put our own little twist on it to put on the best quarantine shows that you're watching. Now, there is one rule for this, and if you guys have lists that you guys want to send to us, we actually have a couple that we'll read on air, but use the hashtag. I should probably know what the hashtag is if I'm going to present it. That's poor on my part. Really, just an absolutely phenomenal start to our show today. So that hashtag, as I look it up, as I made it, just send it on to Gamble on Ginter. It really was that simple.
We have some statistics coming in.
Oh.
Pete has spent 95% of his quarantine in the gulag.
This is true. This is true. I've spent about, and that may be a little high. That may be a little low. I've been in the gulag much higher. So we are going to introduce live me and Amano's list of shows that we've quarantined, but we're less interesting, so we're going to get the good stuff out of the way. Jessica and Ashley's top 5, although it's not really their top 5 because, as they said, they don't want to list anything. They don't really want to make it a true list. So I can't wait to hear this. So whatever you guys want to start, you can go your top 5.
Consider this number 5.
Okay, so this has just been my list for quarantine. This is like not the top 5 best shows or anything. This is just what I've been binge watching during quarantine. Obviously, I think I'm going to start it off with Tiger Kings because that was literally the start of my quarantine. I binge watched the whole thing. I think like episode 3 or 4, I kind of was like, I don't know. But then Daniel was like, this is crazy. We have to keep going.
Did Carol Baskin kill her husband?
I don't know, but I did see a YouTube video today where these 2 kids tricked her into doing an interview because she hasn't been doing them with anyone. And they tricked her by saying that they worked for Jimmy Fallon. And then they just got like a bunch of clips of Jimmy talking with other people and used it, and she totally fell for it. And I was just like, oh my God, like Howard's coming for you.
That's
like,
great. That is
man's a
fantastic.
liar.
Okay, so Jess, what do you got at number 5?
Okay, so I would have to say that right now, I don't know if you've ever watched it before, but I think it's on the 3rd or 4th season right now. But it's just enjoyable, just to pass the time. It's called Nailed It.
Yeah.
So explain the concept of Nailed It to those who haven't watched it, because Nailed It is one of my favorite shows. But basically give us an idea of what Nailed It looks like. It's on Netflix.
Yes. Okay, so it is a baking competition. And what you have to do is that you have to recreate whatever kind of baking looking cookie or cake or whatever that they present to you, and you have a very limited amount of time. Now these bakers are like average bakers, like everybody, they know maybe the basics or they're absolutely horrible. They don't know any basics, and it's hilarious to watch because they try so hard and some of them have no clue. So they just try and do whatever they can. They follow the instructions and then they reveal to the judges what they've done, and every time it goes, nailed it. And it just looks awful. And some of them you actually get impressed with them because it starts off with like a smaller like cookie or something, and then it's like this grand cake that you see in like events or whatever, and it's just so funny to see.
Both you and Ashley would consider yourself great bakers for the most part. I think you guys both make both.
Okay, her.
Jess's cookies, 10 out of 10. No one can beat them. That's all I had to say. We agreed on all parties. But one of the things that was said before we got on was that it just looks terrible. And you got to think, okay, we need to make a gourmet dessert of some kind in, I don't know, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And just honestly, it's a hysterical show. I definitely recommend it as well. You may or may not hear it on my list. I'm not sure yet. My list changes as we do this. And I think in one episode, somebody mixes the sugar for salt, and one of the judges eats it. He's like, "Why did I put this in my mouth?" He's like, "I watched you do this," and it was just so funny. I lost it. That show is just great.
Okay, so Ashley, number 4.
So something else that I was binge watching is Outer Banks. I know, so I don't know if we're gonna tie for 4 because I think that was like the second show or third show that I binge watched. It was really, I don't know, I like it.
I haven't watched that. Give a brief description of what Outer Banks is for those who don't know.
It's a trash can in North Carolina.
It's not North. I'm pretty sure it's South Carolina. It's like the little islands off of South Carolina. And this kid who's like 16 or 17, he has no family basically, and the
foster people are coming to get him, and he's trying to look for treasure with his friends, but other people are also looking for treasure. So like they're being hunted, and I don't want to reveal too much because the show.
Modern day teenage pirate in South Carolina.
It's like it's like the Goonies on steroids.
Yes, Daniel didn't watch it. Daniel did not watch it.
To the Goonies.
Okay, but again, this is their perspective. I want to hear theirs. I
From
have
someone
not
who watched
it.
the
I
show.
did watch it.
No, he didn't. He walked
right.
in after being in the goulash for 3 hours, and then he'd walk in and be like, "I'm tired."
The Outer Banks are worse than the Gulag.
No way. Okay, so it just takes a lot of twists and turns at the very end that you're like, whoa, whoa. You're like, what? It just gets super
Yeah, we're
drama-filled.
trying to like promote this to other people to watch. Okay, is that your number 4 as well, Jessica?
What do you have to say about it?
Well, no, I mean, that was on my list, but I'll add another one. I got others. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. And by the way, just to give you some perspective, so I'm going to give Jess time to pick her 4th one. So we, as we're doing this for the 6th or 7th time, I feel like me and Daniel get our notes down pretty good, where we have everything. This is her first time live, and her notes are literally, she's on the Netflix app, looking up shows that she watched.
Jessica, when did you find out about you going live?
Like
Okay,
10 minutes ago.
Okay, you didn't know you were going to be on camera, so that's my fault. But
I was still in my work clothes.
Okay.
I quickly ran to the room and tried to change and present myself a little bit nicer.
number 4 show, Jessica.
I don't know if anybody has seen this yet, but it's The Witcher.
The Witcher. Okay, so you and me binged this together, and I gotta say it's one of the more actiony, gory. It's just wonderful. It really takes on the life. Like I feel like making shows about video games have not really hit for the most part. Like you can necessarily. I'm surprised someone hasn't taken Grand Theft Auto and made that a movie yet, because
so many different outcomes.
But the thing about it is, The Witcher itself, they pretty much stayed along the game log for it. It's mainly a PC game. They kind of made it to Xbox later in, but they kind of go on their own tangent away from it, and it's a really interesting show. Henry Cavill, Superman, is actually the main character, and God, what a character he plays! It's a man beast who doesn't show any emotion. And he's one of the first of his kind, which is a dying kind, to actually show emotion throughout. So it's very interesting. I recommend it distinctly.
We got Ryan Gabriel weighing in, and I kind of agree with this. Pete's greatest quality is his ability to communicate in an efficient manner.
You know what? That's why they pay me the big bucks. So thank you, Ryan, who I think there's a UFC fight, and he's not here, so we're not getting his UFC picks today. Yeah, he's got him though. He's hiding him. He's somewhere in there. Okay. For sure. Ashley, you're number 3.
I'm gonna go with Ozarks.
Ozark.
Yes.
Now I'm seeing Ozark on a lot of lists I've seen so far. So explain Ozark for those who have not seen Ozark once.
So it starts off pretty abruptly, and it kind of has like Breaking Bad vibes almost. It kind of gives me, it's like dark and dreary and super drama-y. Basically, this guy just works for bad people. He has to launder their money somehow, or they're gonna just kill him and his family. And I mean, it you might not like it like the first 3 episodes, but like season 2 and season 3 just get really wicked, and I hope there's more.
Okay, I like that. Jessica, do you have a third?
I do. So I think my third one is kind of tied. I was trying to remember the other name of it, but I just binge watched both of these, and I forced Peter to kind of watch it, but he kind of got into it too. So it's going to be Love is Blind.
Oh God. Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Continue.
And what was the second one? It was the Temptation one, or
Is that Too Hot to Handle? Oh my goodness! I've got a lot to say on this, but I want please explain it.
Wait, so is she giving us 2 right now?
I just kind of they're tied
they
for
both
third.
they fall under the same category.
Yeah. So the
Am I
thing.
getting 2 or should I combine them?
So explain Love is Blind first.
Okay, so Love is Blind is this like reality show where these couples are kind of
Not couples, strangers.
strangers.
Group of girls, group of boys.
Yes, separate, and they've never seen each other, and they go into these rooms and they just talk, and there's a wall, so you never get to see each other. And then the goal is to connect with them, and if they connect with each other, they propose, and then that's when they can finally see each other.
Propose for marriage.
Propose for marriage.
Yes.
Actual marriage.
And then they get to, yes. Pretty much it was a week,
They
yeah.
propose and then they see each other 24 hours later. So the proposal, then you have to go to bed and get ready, and then they see them or something. I don't know.
Was there anyone who was like, ugh?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh, Jessica.
That's
wasn't it?
great. That's great. No, and that's the only thing that I kind of like about that show. And then the other one, Too Hot to Handle. Oh my God. I've got so many hot takes on this, but please explain Too Hot to Handle. 'Cause
So same thing. It's a drama where it's these strangers. They meet up on an island and they're trying to find love. But the problem with them is that they're basically like sleuths.
So
a little
you-
bit.
so-
No, they flat out say
They
it.
do. They're there to just hook up whenever they can.
That's what they
And-
think. And then
and they go in and they're thinking that this is just basically a big hookup session with the hottest people in the world, and it turns out that they can't have sex.
They can't touch each other.
Oh,
they
no.
can't kiss.
So they get so upset, and they can't kiss, they can't do nothing unless they were given specific permission to be able to do it, because they want them to connect on an emotional level so they actually can form good, steady relationships. Okay, but it worked.
Here-
It does
They
work.
dock everyone's pay.
Yes.
So everyone's pay if they do if they seed
If
into
one couple,
temptation
right.
without a text message saying go ahead, then they lose money for almost everyone else.
So they start off at 100,000, the whole group, and then a kiss was worth like $3 grand, and then like having sex was like 20 grand.
So the
And they
score,
just-
the scoring system honestly does not matter at all, and this is why, from the fact, because this is why this show cannot be on any of these lists. Is everyone won? Newsflash: everyone won. At the end of the show, everyone split the money.
But they all grew. That's why.
No,
They grew as people.
No,
No,
they-
but what?
They fooled you out of your time and your money by doing that. It's under the same family as the Jersey Shore, which I love Jersey Shore. So it's literally the same thing, but it does have some interesting elements. I can't understand why it's perfectly fine for two people to just shower together but they have to pay a fine for kissing. I saw one of those scenes. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, that's
Okay, but you're missing the point of this list. It's binge-worthy stuff during this quarantine.
okay.
And-
Fair enough, but I can have my
And
debates.
it's like
You know what? That was
no,
2 and 3.
Let me finish. No, but so it's like the best way I can describe these shows are it's like a horrible car accident. You feel like crap while you're watching it. You start questioning your own judgment for looking at this terrible thing, but you can't look away because it's just it takes you in, and you just want to see what happens. You want to see if there's something more to it, so you keep looking. It's just that's the best way I can describe those shows.
It's like a train wreck, and you just have to finish watching what happens. You're just like, what is like? Why are you making these choices?
So we're getting into the nitty gritty. Your top 2 right now. I think if we combine it, I think. I guess you can combine those as 2. Well, what's your 2, Ashley?
I'm trying to think about what I've watched on Hulu because
You don't want to just go Netflix?
yeah.
For the sake, my list is a little bit different. There's some things that can go on from there.
I remembered one. Okay, if anyone, I mean, you don't have to speak Spanish because they do have English voiceovers. So if you check the caption sections, you could do it. But Casa de Papel or Money Heist.
Oh my God.
I
I was
love
listening to a
it.
lot of positive criticisms, but one of the things I've heard, I'm not a Spanish speaker, but if you are a Spanish speaker, listen to it in Spanish because you can get the real effect instead of just reading words on that anything. Jessica, do you have a number 2?
Okay, so I would have to say probably my number 2 was going to be Lucifer. I don't know if anybody has seen it. It's kind of an old show. It's been out there for a while, but they put it on Netflix, and I have recommended it to all of my friends, and so far, all of them have really loved it. It's a great show. And it's about basically Lucifer, the devil. He comes to Earth because he's bored of being in hell. And he goes to none other than Los Angeles. And and he ends up trying to solve crimes with a detective from the agency over there, and that's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah, well said for the most part. Okay, so your guys' favorite, and I know you don't want this to be a list, but we're going to make it so this is your favorite. The anticipation is growing. Your top one, the number one, the best show that you have to watch. Jessica, I think I know what yours is, so why don't you go first? No? Okay, great. Thank you for great work. Ashley, why don't you go first?
Okay, I want to say that the last one might have been my number one, so I'm going to go with the one I would not recommend while binge watching, because I did binge watch it and it was fine, but All American, it's like the kid who like gets and I like football, like I played football in high school, whatever, but I don't know, it seems so typical.
It was very generic.
Yeah, it was good though. I didn't mind it, but it's not really like a thriller or really action. It's not like Gossip Girl.
I got an idea before you guys reveal it to each other. What do you think her show is?
God, I mean, I think it's honestly probably Tiger King. That's probably her number one, but I think everything that's going through her mind, she wants to give some kind of perspective on another show. And that's kind of the fun thing about this, is why we do this. It's because everyone's shows have been different. You know what? So have you thought of anything else that you wanted to recommend to people?
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that she said Tiger King, because that would have been one of my top ones. But I would have to say that again, if you haven't watched this yet, go watch it. It's called You. It's phenomenal. It's about this guy who basically tries to he stalks this girl into pretty much falling in love with him, and he's trying to be the perfect guy by stalking her and figuring out everything, and it's so good because you want to know what's going to happen, and you kind of like almost cheer for him at certain points, because I'm like,
it's so I gotta say something. It's so scary because it shows you how exposed you are on social media, because that's how he finds out everything about her, like where she works, like he follows her there, like finds out what time she works there, what she does in her free time, like all these little postings, like he's following her and then he follows her home. It's just like, oh, maybe this should be private, or maybe I shouldn't tag this location. Like who is watching? And then yeah.
Okay.
And then so they have a second season that came out too, and I really like the second season too, because it has a nice twist at the end it makes it different from the second one, because you're worried like, oh, is it basically the same thing all over again? But no, there's this big twist at the end. Now we're super curious to see season 3 and how that's gonna turn out. But it's
episode, I was like, how dare you? How dare you?
I know. So, but I'm very excited to see that. But if you haven't seen that yet, if you're into like a little bit of mystery and murder, yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Sweet. So I'm gonna read off some audience ones, because I think I want to hear what other people's perspective before we give the big reveal for Daniel's top 5 coming in here in just a moment. Try to give him a mic, but for real.
Ryan Gabriel is begging to talk about Dave on FX.
So that's one of the things that I wanted to kind of get into, because I don't think any of us have watched Dave, but it's getting very good reviews.
I've been hearing a lot about it. I've been wanting to watch it. I haven't gotten to it.
I feel like you especially would really like Dave.
Oh,
yeah, so that's more. So to give Ryan's, because he made sure to send me this right away. Number 5 is actually one that I've done as well, and you know we're pretty close. Like we almost see each other and talk every day, and we're doing the same thing subconsciously, which is watching any and all 30 for 30s that have ever been made. I've watched at least 20 or 30 of them. So I fully understand that one, and I completely agree. Number 4 is The Masked Singer. So I guess that counts. It's live. It's live. It's what's going on. I think it's the 4th time they're doing it. It's a creative idea. The fact that one of those things have lasted 4 seasons, it's great. And it's got a pretty good concept. Eventually, you're going to run out of celebrities, though. Number 3, Dave. Again, Dave is Little Dicky, the rapper, kind of his life outside.
Yeah,
I have not...
Yes. So I have not watched it. So unfortunately, I can't give the perspective. Maybe we can bring him on to talk about Dave as much as he wants till his heart desires.
Well, which is weird because he said it's the best one, but he put it at 3.
He put it at 3. Yeah, he put it at 3. No, his number 1 is Tiger King, and his number 2 is Ozark. Which are again, Ozark's getting a lot of. Me and Jess have not gotten to Ozark yet.
I'll talk
Okay.
to you about Ozark.
So Ozark, I guess I need to give it a second chance because I tried. I tried with like that first episode, and I was like, I feel like I'm gonna hate this because it was so
They said it takes the
boring.
second episode. You takes to the second episode to get
It
hooked.
just goes like this.
Breaking Bad wasn't like that. I mean, it took a couple seasons for you to get hooked. Apparently, this one is a couple of episodes, and you're hooked. And Jason Bateman's one of my favorite people. Like, I feel like he'd be excellent in that role.
By the ending of the first season, you're not hooked, then it's really not for you.
So, and then we got another one coming in. It's our good friend Specs. He's got Tiger King at 5. Number 4 is one that I agree with wholeheartedly. It's the NFL draft coverage, and I know him. He was watching all 3 rounds. You basically binge watch something. I agree. The NFL draft is definitely qualifies. Dave and Ozark, and then the first one he has on the list is The Wire, which that's
expected of Specs, I feel like. From what I know about Specs, I feel like that's a show.
I mean, he's a character, of course. We love him to death. But The Wire's really, I mean, it's old. He's just getting into it. But it's critically acclaimed as one of the best, shows ever. Ever. So grab a mic real quick. I want to hear your top 5. List them off.
Let's bid the ladies farewell.
Let's bid the ladies farewell. Guys, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. And thank you so much. We're going to take our headphones back. I got to take them off. Yeah.
We're getting professional again.
So we're going back to professional. We're going to start getting into serious sports talk, guys.
Yo,
So
yo, yo, yo.
all the fun stuff's over.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. What's up, everybody?
All right. So
Ladies, thank you. Okay. Ash, I love you. Okay. All right. I just want to say I'm gonna give a little guest list now because I see one person on my side, Chloe from the Nothing But Facts
MBF
podcast.
Chloe.
MBF_Chloe from Nothing But Facts.
we barely you kind of stole your idea, but not really.
No, we're just
Top
trying
5
to we're
lips.
trying to get the social talking going a little bit.
Yeah,
Trying
for
to
sure.
see what other
For
people
sure.
are feeling.
No, but there's a lot of the one thing I liked about it, and one of the reasons why I wanted to get my wife and your girlfriend on the show is because they are a different perspective than our audience, which is predominantly male.
yeah.
I would say almost all male,
Yeah.
except for maybe 1 or 2 sprinkled in.
Well, let's be honest. The reason you had your wife and the reason I had my girlfriend on the show was to prove to everybody we're not imagining things.
Yeah, no, it's basically, clarification that actually the stuff that happens in our life, although ridiculous,
We're not
happens.
just 2 guys locked in a room talking to each other. But let me give Chloe's list real quick, and then you and I are going to get to talking.
Yeah, for
okay?
sure.
So, Chloe, I don't think this is in any particular order, but I like the order it's in because when I say the 5th one, everyone's going to be like, what the fuck? Okay, so the first one I see here, Tiger King. Second, Better Call Saul, which I agree with. Better Call Saul is honestly
We
a
did not
great
mention
show.
that one on
It may
here, yeah.
be a little more mind twisting than Breaking Bad is, but it's still, it has its own great qualities that makes it unique from Breaking Bad. Okay, he then put Money Heist.
Money Heist.
Wait,
okay.
were you gonna say something about Better Call
No,
Saul?
no, Better Call Saul. From everything I've heard about it, and I've watched Breaking Bad, I liked it, but they're saying it's probably the best spinoff that's ever been made.
It might be honestly because it's already going, I think, on its 5th season.
That's hard to do.
That is hard
for a
as a
spinoff.
spinoff. Spinoffs are usually done by 1 or 2 seasons. Better Call Saul is definitely great. Bob Odenkirk, who plays Saul, is honestly one of the best actors I've ever seen in a TV show. Like, he's a perfect TV show actor. I could see him in some movies, right? Like, he had a voice in The Incredibles, but he's more of a TV
For sure.
actor.
For sure. Yeah. So Money Heist, which we talked about a little bit.
Yep. So that was his 3rd one, Money Heist. I'm not big on Money Heist, to be honest with you. It has its moments, but I feel like it's very over the top. And it has nothing to do with, the language barrier. It's more so, in my eyes, the way they dramatize things in that show.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very unrealistic. It's like they go back to the same bank and rob the same bank. And it's like, how much more can you really take of that?
Mm-hmm.
But it's top 2. You have Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars. So if you are on Disney Plus,
Really?
great show, classic, right? And if I'm not mistaken, they started to continue it now, right? So that's even better. But it's number
Okay.
1 show. This is gonna blow your mind right now when I say this. Baby Einsteins.
Baby Einsteins.
And now I'll begin my list.
Yeah. No, I've got nothing to say to that. Baby Einsteins, really?
Yeah.
That's not. He's not trolling.
Oh wait, he said nah. Hold on. Nah what? Rebels. He said Rebels.
Rebels.
So he's putting Rebels instead.
Oh, he was gonna put Baby Einstein. I thought that was straight up he was trolling.
Yeah, he probably was. But low key, he probably watches Baby Einstein. But let's jump on in. Number 5. I'm gonna honestly say I'm just thinking of these off the top of my head as we go along. Okay, but number 5, I'm gonna start with Sons of Anarchy.
So you've watched it during the process because I feel like that's an older
I've
show.
been
Like, it's
dying-
a great show, but
I've been dying to watch it, right? And I tried watching it with Ash. She's never seen it before, and she doesn't seem to catch on to it. But I love Sons of Anarchy, and I've had the urge to watch it because they drive around, they ride around on these motorcycles, right? And we can't go outside like that right now.
top 5 show that I've watched all time. I'm willing to put that in my top 5 all time, which is for another show.
Sons
Yeah.
of Anarchy is definitely top 5 all time for me.
For sure. Okay, so Sons of Anarchy. Wow, off the board.
Yeah, because if you want a little bit of action, like things that you aren't going to happen to you while you're in quarantine, right? You would watch a show like Sons of Anarchy because so much is happening that you feel like you're out there with them.
Okay. What's your 4?
Well, no, I was gonna ask you, what's your 5?
Okay, my 5. You want to do it that way? Okay,
Yeah,
my
let's go
5,
back and forth.
My 5 is actually Jack Ryan on Amazon.
I have not seen that
So
yet.
Jack Ryan, basically, it's
You mean Jim Halpert?
Jim Halpert plays a secret agent that I'm not far into it, but basically he's taking down a terrorist organization within one of the foreign countries out there. I think it's Yemen. But he basically works as kind of like a desk jockey for the most part, but has background back as Marines and doing some things in his past, which where I am in the season, we're still learning about. But he ends up being a very kick-ass, person throughout. It's a little weird seeing Jim Halpert in that role, but he's a very good actor. Like, you can't just put him at that. You're always going to think of him in that Office persona, but he's very good in this role as well.
Who would have ever thought when Jim left the office that his sports marketing agency wouldn't work out and he would end up joining the Marines?
I mean, he signed Ryan Howard. That's his problem.
He did
He
sign-
put all of his
and
eggs into
Dr.
the Ryan
J.
Howard basket.
And Dr. J.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately.
Never forget, Jim Halpert got to shoot hoops with Dr. J. That's a classic moment in Office history.
So what's your 4?
Number 4 for me, in all honesty, if I want to think like outside of not even outside of the box, you know what? Number 4 for me, and I feel like this is the one people would expect me to put at number 1, is if you just jump on the WWE network and you just binge a whole bunch of classic WWE.
Okay,
pay-per-views.
that counts. I put that under the same category. So if you've been watching a lot of classic WWE matches, that fits. Yeah, my number 4, I don't really need to go into. The next 3 that I have, it's The Witcher. The Witcher is definitely my number 4 on there. I'll just give you 3 and 2 because they're nothing that we haven't heard already. I'll tease my. The number 3 is Nailed It, and Tiger King is my number 2.
Okay, so I got some catching up to do here. And you said Tiger King was number 2? Okay. So for me, number 3, I got to be honest because I don't think anybody would think of this as a binge-worthy kind of show, but it's something that I feel like everybody is kind of in tune with, and we're going to touch up more on it, later in the show, but The Last Dance. The Last Dance has honestly been like one of the most top-quality documentaries I've ever seen, and I can't fucking wait for Sundays just so I could watch it, and then during the week, I will rewatch the episodes. So I kind of like binge it during the week regardless.
No, for sure. And your number 2?
My number 2, honestly, I have to go off and say that you got to go with probably, I'm going to go with 2 of them. It's kind of tied for me, Breaking Bad and The Sopranos.
So you've been watching both the Breaking Bad and
Not
The
that I
Sopranos.
both have necessarily. I watched
that's
Breaking
the
Bad.
rules.
Well, I watched Breaking Bad with my stepdad. I'll say that.
Okay.
I didn't watch every single episode with him, but I sat there for hours
So
with
you
him.
watched some of the old episodes.
I was
that
catching
you've
up
seen.
on it with him, so I did watch it with him. The Sopranos is more of a recommendation, right? Because for me, when I make a list like this, it's more like not necessarily my favorites, but like when I think of like shows that you could watch for the first time, love it, and to the point that you're willing to like start watching it again, right? It becomes binge worthy in your eyes.
Okay.
Or that you just become hooked on it. So The Sopranos and Breaking Bad would definitely be number 2 for me.
Okay, and Daniel Mano's number 1 binge-worthy show to watch is
The Office.
The
Bro, The Office. It's always, whether it's quarantine, fucking Thanksgiving weekend, I don't give a shit. That's the best binge-worthy show at all times of the year. The Office, bro. Come on.
my parents and my sister would say Friends to that answer, but my number 1 is The Last Dance. It's the one thing that I've been looking forward to. every week on every Sunday, where it's like, okay, this is on network TV. And the reason where I find it so interesting is because it's not because of the LeBron Jordan debate. I'm just over that. I really am. But it's for us who, I born in 92.
Yeah.
We didn't
We
comprehend
caught the end of Jordan's career.
greatness throughout, and what kind of a transcendent player. And all we have is our example, which is our LeBron James, where we've been able to see him through his entire career.
Well, not only that, it's also the clips you see all over TV. The last shot with the Cavs, right, where he like broke Buddy and like just goes off the side like that against the Cavs. The shot against the Jazz, the infamous, or not the infamous, the famous dunk from the free throw line. Like these are things that we see, but we don't know the context behind who is Michael Jordan.
And it's really interesting because when you he may have been transcendent in the way that he does things, and where the comparisons I think are interesting between Michael Jordan and LeBron James in this situation is LeBron James has kind of taken that model and taken it to the 10th degree.
Yeah,
because of all the resources that we have going
now with
on.
social media and things like that. LeBron James. See, the thing is, I hate when people compare because at the end of the day, no matter what, it's always going to be different because it's different timetables and all that.
It's a fun argument either way you put it.
And it also wasn't simultaneous between Jordan and LeBron.
There's always that
this.
wonder. There's always that wonder because you never got to see it like right there. Like we saw tail end of the we saw rookie Kobe against old Jordan.
And that's what one of the most recent episodes touched up on.
They talked about that All-Star game and how Kobe was coming up next, and when Kobe was going through his experience, but I'm talking about it mainly in the marketing, how he marketed himself, how he was the first person to really make the sneaker a collector's item rather than just something you put on your feet.
Jordan's the original. Like Jordan was the prototype to everything that's going on right now. Like that. Like if there was no Jordan, all this craziness that's going on as far as like how NBA players market themselves and move, it wouldn't happen without Jordan.
But without Jordan, LeBron doesn't have the access to take the $1 billion contract he did when he came into the league from Nike and have the same success throughout his career to be good, to make it so that, all right, I want these LeBron 7s, LeBron 8, the same kind of thing with the Jordan line, how it's become revolutionary. And that's where I think like you're looking at Jordan, what, the modern, the medium of media was back in 1998. And then you put it into today's light. It's very interesting to see, what kind of person was he, off the basketball court. And he just, it seems like these are just all competitive freaks for the most part.
Yeah, but I like how transparent it is. In all honesty, like I loved how they brought up the whole Isaiah Thomas situation as far as like the animosity they held amongst each other, and they still do obviously because Jordan, they were like, oh, you want to see this video of what Isaiah said, and he's like, it doesn't change my mind about anything. I don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. So you could tell there's definitely still animosity there, but you actually got to see I feel like a lot of people think Jordan is perfect, right? That like he came in and he was perfect and everything about his career was perfect, right? People didn't know the struggle like in his actual come up to becoming the best player. Like a lot of people counted him out of certain situations, right? He wasn't drafted number 1. He was cut from his high school team, things like that, right? These are all things that attributed to it. But then you also see when he first broke his ankle, right, or his foot, whatever it was that he broke, and his, comeback from that. Him actually not only losing in like the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think it was that he lost in the actual finals too. No, he didn't lose in the finals.
He's
but
never lost.
It was
in the
Eastern
finals,
Conference Finals back to back against the bad boy Pistons.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, and they couldn't do that.
But even for for Michael Jordan specifically, like it's also on the basketball court, like all that stuff is intense to what made him as a basketball player. What's really interesting is when he seemed like he was on the basketball court, especially when he came up, it was like, oh, I would never, I'd never touch any of the stuff that's around, everything with the basketball team, because he walked into like places where there was just cocaine and all kind of influences.
He was saying, he's like, I knew
everywhere.
My teammates when I first came in the league, they were like drinking at halftime. Some of them were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. He said he would just remove himself from all of that.
And it's just interesting to see how that mental aspect of, hey, I'm here to be the greatest and nothing else, and how long just mentally that carried. Yes, he has God-given talent in a lot of ways, athletic talent. I mean, they're not even getting into it yet, but he was okay at baseball. Okay in the sense that he could hit. He could play outfield. He could do things as an athlete. Like, he wasn't just the greatest basketball player of all time from some people.
He was versatile.
Okay, so we're going to get into some serious sports topics. I'm going to get into my top 10, or not my top 10, but the top 100 list that we have for baseball. I believe I'm going to do 10 because 20 was way too long and wordy last time. But the NFL draft, which we haven't touched on since, we made a lot of predictions, and I made a lot of money off Henry Ruggs going to the Raiders, and Justin Herbert going to the Chargers, and Tua going to the Dolphins. My first question to my co-host is, what do you think the big takeaways are from this draft? I think you start with the rookie quarterbacks and their situation.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at like one situation with rookie quarterbacks, I think the Jordan Love situation is a big one to look at, because it's like, is the Packers trying to think a step ahead because they know, maybe Aaron Rodgers might not only be out the door as far as retirement goes, but is his time in Green Bay, like, are they monitoring him? Like, are they considering maybe moving him, letting him go? Like, what's the case?
This is the interesting part of the Green Bay situation, is I don't think we should be right now questioning that it's going to be the wrong move long term. Let's not forget that the Packers traded up to get Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre, who was arguably a top 5 quarterback of all time at that point in his career. He was maybe the best quarterback in the league at that time. And to take a young kid like Aaron Rodgers, who was unproven, just to have him sit with a first-round draft pick, it didn't make a lot of sense. No one's questioning that move today because of what it ended up being. Now, I'm not saying Jordan Love is Aaron Rodgers.
That's what I was about to ask. Are you trying to say that he might turn into that?
What I will say is the Packers, since 1992, when I entered this earth, have had 5 starting quarterbacks. In comparison, the Dolphins have had 27 during that same span, and one of them was Marino. So when you put into that longevity, when you think of most of the games were done by Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. They've had that continuity. They've had those golden gooses at quarterback position that have set your franchise and allowed you to compete for the next 10 to 15 years. That cannot be questioned right now in the long term. What it does for a team that was 13-3 last year, that literally got dominated by the 49ers twice, but played every other team better than anyone throughout the season, a team that looked like a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
I remember at the beginning of the season, people were really trying to say that like the Packers might have a chance of going and winning the Super Bowl.
It's inexcusable that you don't get that little bit of help at the first round at that time. Now, again, short term, it is the wrong move with what they're looking at. Now, granted, Devontae Adams, not a high pick, second pick. Their number 2, Alan Lazard, is a good wide receiver. He was undrafted, so they know how to find these players. But to not have one drafted, it's amazing. I really like the QB situations for the rookie quarterbacks. I think Herbert will end up being the starter. I don't know if he'll start game 1, but I think he'll eventually be the starter throughout the season. It'll get him a chance to learn. He's got a lot of weapons around him. I think Joe Burrow is going to come out right out of the gates. He's going to start day 1. It's not even a question at this point.
Yeah, obviously. With Dalton going to the Cowboys now.
That team was picked first overall for a reason. It's not you solve the quarterback, it looks like, for the next 10 to 15 years. Can you build around him, especially now when his salary is – it's still first pick, first round money, but it's not as much as you're going to pay Patrick Mahomes right now. But that's the goal on their rookie contracts. That's when you got to build the rest of your team, and that's a great start. And Tua to the Dolphins. Listen, there is questions about his durability. I don't like the fact that he didn't practice much at Alabama, but when he came to play, he was an absolute monster. There is not a throw in the NFL that he cannot make right now. When you're looking at him, you're looking at if he stays healthy. Because if he stays healthy, he is going to be great. I don't think there's
so many
question.
Injuries within just 2 years alone.
And that is the concern. You can have that if in that situation, but you cannot question his production on the field at Alabama. Yes, he has 3 receivers that are going to be taken in the first round on that team. But look at the throws he makes. How many times is he catching them in stride? How many times are receivers not having to make a play because he's making a perfect throw? Look at the final play of the NCAA championship game. Name quarterbacks that can make that throw in the league. About 10 to 15 given the right circumstances. Not only keep in mind, he's lefty. So that corner of the end zone is usually not as easy to open up your hips for a righty and throw all the way to the outside corner of the end zone. So he's a different dynamic. You got to set up your offensive line differently, but I think they did a pretty good job. And I think the other storyline is the Patriots, man. What are they do? It's going to be Stidham. Stidham's going to be your quarterback. Jared Stidham. I think I went to middle school with
Sticking with
Jared
Stidham.
Stidham. I mean, there's enough in practice. Again, yes, Bill Belichick's deserve the benefit of the doubt, but nothing. I mean, there's Cam Newton. There's other people out there.
I have the oddest feeling, though, that Cam Newton could definitely make a move over there still.
I think Cam Newton, I mean, until he gets medically cleared, no one's going to look at him.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to have a true profile on him. And, you know, he's going to have to take a prove-it deal for the most part, but he can make himself a lot of money by doing so. But, I mean, I think it's interesting that you sign a backup like Andy Dalton in a situation where Dak Prescott's there just to wait around. I mean, what's Andy Dalton waiting around for? You know? Like, is he just going to spend the rest of his career as a backup?
Well,
I think he's in, you know, below average starting quarterback, but
he
a starting
lowered his
quarterback.
status doing that, honestly, if you ask me. Like, yeah, you're making money in 1 year because you're obviously coming off of like an off season, basically, but you know, people still viewed Andy Dalton as a quality starting quarterback to some extent.
I think he, with the right system around him, he can be good. I think Dallas is a good system for him. They can really be good and get him some market for the starting quarterback position. But you got Lawrence coming out. You had the rookies coming out this year. Not a lot of people are going to take a chance on an older quarterback. Those days are over for the most part. Okay, so just to, you know, as we segue into my top 100 list, just make sure to give us a follow at Gamble on Ginter on Twitter and on Instagram. You know, always keep sending in your top 5 quarantine lists through the hashtag Gamble on Ginter, which I know now.
And subscribe on YouTube.
And please
because
subscribe
we're live
to us on YouTube
right
as
now.
well. So make sure to follow us on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. And any feedback, comments that you have, you know, we'll look through and we like them, then thank you. And if we don't, we just won't, you know, we'll probably delete them. I don't know.
Yeah. Before you shed some light on your list, I think we should shed some light in the room real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait, that light switch doesn't work?
Oh, the light switch does work.
Yeah, so we should shed some light. I was trying to make a pun.
You may have to go up here and...
Oh. There we go. There we go. We just needed a little bit of light. But let's jump on into that list real quick.
Yeah, can you? Yeah. So the backstory of this list is CBS made a top 100 list that had Aaron Judge at 48. Just a lot of ridiculous people in a lot of ridiculous places, and it got me mad. So I wanted to make my own list. Now I researched these picks, and they do change. So I looked through my list today, and I had someone that I was gonna introduce within the original 100 to 81 that I moved up because I'm like, you know what? They're much better than this. And I reevaluated today and they moved up again. So you will not hear this mystery individual's name again. They will be higher on this list and you won't find out who that mystery individual is until maybe a later time. Who knows? I don't know.
Okay.
So there is going to be a theme with the people that I picked, and it's really tough when you get to this point of the, you know, when you have this point of the list. I think 1 through 10 is going to be a little bit easier than 70 through 80.
Yeah, picking that middle ground and being like, wow, this person's really 70.
But what separates, and it's little things, and I'm going to show you, but most of the guys that I have on this list, I attribute breakout to them. Breakout players, people that you really made noise last year. And number 80 on my list that was not given is right fielder for the New York Mets, Michael Conforto. The Oregon State product last year, /257, 363, and 494. He
he was part of the very, very huge in the MLB 30 home run club with 33 home runs and 92 RBIs. He's got some versatility in center field that really helps him in a Mets lineup that has some good outfielders, but not a lot of great places to play it. Center field, he's better in right field, but the fact that he can play center field adds value to your team. He's going to be your prototypical lefty guy he may benefit from lefties not, being used just to face one guy as much. So he may benefit from that, seeing more right-handed batters. But he comes in at 80 on my list. Number 79 from the awful Pittsburgh Pirates, it's Josh Bell, the first baseman. So Josh Bell last year absolutely had a breakout season. 36 home runs, 117 RBIs with a team that did not score a lot of runs, was not known for their offense. He kind of tailed off at the end of the year, but still finished with a .569 slugging percentage in 143 games. And he only struck out for a major power hitter, hitting that 114 times is not a lot in today's MLB.
Because you got to remember when Stanton was on the Marlins, it was atrocious.
And with 74 walks as well, like he really is coming into his own. He is still getting into the prime of his career. But, I mean, there's nothing that says he can't hit 30 home runs again. It's just health at this point. Limited to a first baseman, I think. But he's a switch hitter. A little bit way better from the left side than the right side, but switch hitter dynamic. Number 78. This guy, I think, was the most surprising person when you look at his numbers compared to what you've seen production in years past. So Jorge Soler. Yes, Jorge Soler Power from the Kansas City Royals. He led the AL last year in home runs. Did you know that?
Hell no, I did
Did you
not.
know that Jorge Soler was the AL leader in home runs with 48 home runs last year?
I had no idea.
48 home runs. And these are my favorite stats because he actually led the NL in the American League in the following categories. Strikeouts. He struck out the most than any players. Home runs. And games played, which was my favorite. He played all 162 games last year. To give you some perspective on how surprising that is for Soler, if you're, casual baseball fan, may know him if you really watch the top of the ranking boards, but you're not watching Royals baseball for the most part. Other than that, you remember him on those really good Cubs team as a AAA to platoon guy. Before this season, the last time he played over 100 games and the only time he's played 100 games in his career was with those Cubs in 2015 when he played 103. So he's been a platoon player his entire career. He got a full 162 game, and he showed it by leading the American League in home runs. That's major, major upgrade. Number 77, and I compare him very, very closely to Michael Conforto as a left-handed hitting right fielder, but that's Max Kepler from the Minnesota Twins, the bomb-smacking Minnesota Twins that broke the record of your Yankees last year, who for the most home runs in a season. And then the Yankees got him back because they were the better team.
They still are.
But they can hit bombs. There's no question about it.
I feel like Max Kepler is the kid in the back of your first grade class eating Skittles.
Yeah, but he's also the kid on the
prefers
Twins.
the red Skittles.
He's the one on the Twins who's hitting 36 bombs and 90 RBIs. He's
powered by red Skittles.
I think Michael Conforto and Max Kepler, to most people, are literally the same player. Versatility in center field. The one thing that gives Max Kepler an edge over Conforto, he's a little bit better of a defender, and he's a better hitter against lefties. Kepler gets a bad rap that he is a platoon player. He can only play against righties. He hit 298 against lefties last year. His power definitely dropped off because he saw more righties than lefties, but that's a good, you're hitting almost 300 against left-handed pitching. It's no slouch. And if you look in perspectives of WAR, which is not my favorite stat, he was literally 0.1 ahead of Conforto. So he is 0.1, a couple of spots ahead in the rankings. Number 76 is really the only person who I thought had a down year last year. Still only 26. It's Corey Seager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the shortstop. 44 doubles last year, surprisingly led the NL, which
that's I think what you're going to see a lot from, these younger players is what is their power cap. I think you're seeing it with Manny Machado, why he's thought of a little bit less than the top 20 player that he was paid like, is because his power potential has, I think, hit its apex. Corey Seager with that double amount where he's hit 44 doubles means he's very close to hitting them out. Some of those swings that he's having are going to be home runs in the future. He was hitting 425 in June before he got hurt. Still played 140 games last year. But that little injury kind of in the middle of the season where it sucks the most, where you're just starting to get in the groove, then you get hurt, and then you got to feel like you got to get back into the groove, and then all of a sudden it's the playoffs and it's a different animal. It was just a tough season for that, but still very good shortstop. Could be moved to second base or third base in the future. Number 75, Yoan Moncada. So Yoan Moncada, I think if we were doing the prospects list, he was the number one prospect in the system when he was with the Boston Red Sox back in the day. He was one of the big pieces that got Chris Sale to Boston to help them win a World Series. It cost him the rights to Yoan Moncada and Michael Kopech, who is an amazing pitcher in his own right. But 316 last year, he really improved from being the strikeout leader in the AL with 217 strikeouts in his first full season to 154. He still strikes out a ton, but at 316, 367, 549 slash line, he really has a very high offensive ceiling. The weird thing about him, though, is coming up, he was kind of brought up as the speed guy. He's not shown a lot of speed at the big league level. Yes, and he's actually been at third base, which is relegated to people who are not so fast. Usually second baseman, shortstops, guys who have better range go there. But he's a tremendous third baseman. The glove was the number one thing you talked about at Moncada when he came up, and it's getting better. But he's only in his age 25 season. A lot of these guys you're going to hear predominantly young. This one, not so young, but probably the most surprising name on this list, and it is the Twins backstop, Mitch Garver. So Mitch Garver last year only played in 93 games, but wow, was his 93 games special. In 93 games, he hit 31 home runs for the Twins. To give you some perspective, he had 7 home runs his entire career, which spanned about 3 seasons before that. So he jumped up in limited games, which means he wasn't the primary catcher to start the season. He was the backup. He hit 31 home runs. He's still, again, one of the reasons he doesn't play is he's not as great defensively, but if you're slugging at 630 for a catcher, they're either going to find another position for you or you're going to make an impact and your defensive output's going to be even lessened. And it's not, he could go JT Realmuto, where Realmuto was not a very defined catcher when he came up. He got better and now is a Gold Glove catcher. I think you could see that. He's a little older at 29 years old, but definitely that power potential cannot be ignored. That's why he's so high on my list. Lucas Giolito at 73. I love these White Sox, these young White Sox, and he's only 24 years old. Definitely my vote for most improved player over a season because he had his second full MLB season. He was the worst pitcher in the league in the following category in ERA last year, runs given up, and walks. Those are the 3 worst things to be last in the league. He improved from a 6.13 ERA to a 3.41 ERA in 176 innings. He went down to 131 hits given up in 170 innings. Had 125 strikeouts the year before, had 220 last year. So he almost went up by 100 strikeouts in one season. He cut his ERA in half. He was a number 1 pitching prospect. This isn't surprising. He's going to continue to get better. Last 2 that I have here, Austin Meadows, in the same family as the Conforto Kepler, but a little bit better. He was the steal of the Chris Archer trade, and there's 2 people on that list that the Rays have as a result of that trade. So that's pretty crazy how bad of a trade that was for Pittsburgh. But, 33 home runs, slashing 291, 364, and
58. That's a very productive offensive player. And 71, Hyun-Jin Ryu, the second in the NL Cy Young last year, with the league lowest 24 walks in 182 innings pitched. He led the league with a 2.32 ERA. Why isn't he higher on this list for these things? He's 33, and he's moving to Toronto. The ball flies out of Toronto. You've seen the Yankees score 14 runs in Toronto plenty of times. So I don't like him in that division to replicate the same success as the NL West, which other than Coors Field has predominantly pitchers' parks. So those are 80 through 71. We will reveal 70 to 61 at our next showing. So if you have some thoughts, if you hate my list, please comment and let me know how much you hate my list.
Or if you just hate Pete in general.
Yeah, if you hate me, please message Gamble on Ginter. I really,
At least follow us before you slander Pete.
Yes. So I mean, that's all we ask is you follow us. You could say whatever you want to me, within reason.
Within reason.
And I'm okay with that. Like, if you watch this show just to hate watch me, then you know what? I thank you. I wish that you can have 7 of you watch this show. But anyways, it's been fun. Thanks again to literally our girlfriend and our wife and my wife.
Well, my girlfriend, not our girlfriend.
Your
but my girlfriend and your
girlfriend
wife.
of the show and wife of the show.
Our significant others.
Okay. Yes. So thanks to them for being on. I thought I seemed everyone kind of enjoyed that part so much more than us just rambling on about sports. We may have something, on future shows where they may be back. But thank you again for watching, guys, and have a great rest of your night. Stay safe.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.